Today we're going to talk about Mercury retrograde. We're going to talk about how it's been going for me, for you, for all of us, what I have experienced during this retrograde and still am, the biggest lessons that I am taking away and how I'm working through it and my advice to you guys. So let's get into it. My communication with people during Mercury retrograde is like, can we just stop? It's awesome for the first time just being super aware of the miscommunication during this time, because like literally whenever I'm having a conversation with someone and then as soon as we start miscommunicating, I'm like, oh, hey, babe, mum, friends, family, we're just miscommunicating, let's stop. That would be my first tip for anyone during this time. Like, seriously, just recognize, for me anyway, like, communication in Mercury retrograde is tough. I'm going to give you a few examples of some things that have been happening to me in the retrograde, and with that I will explain to you how I have learned during this time to overcome them and make peace with them, and how that is helping me on my spiritual journey. So me and my partner, we decided that we needed to potentially go and look at upgrading the car that we are driving, because it really hasn't been in the best state recently, and we know that it's something that we're going to have to look into in the future or at some point quite soon. So we both had a day off together. We said that we would go take a look at a car, and we went to a dealership, and when we got there we said, let's not get sucked in. We don't want to end up getting too caught up in this. We don't actually want to buy a car right here, right now. We know that dealerships and their salespeople can be very persuasive, so let's not end up spending hours here. Let's just go in, get the prices, find the information we need to find, and then leave. We ended up being there for potentially like 3 or 4 hours, and we ended up buying a car. We walked out of that dealership 5 minutes later. We looked at each other and we were like, what have we done? So we decided to go and get lunch, have a chat about everything, and we knew instantly that we didn't want this car. We had literally just been like convinced into getting this car, and there had been a lot of miscommunication around things while we were at the dealership. We didn't realize that we were actually committing to buying a car when we committed to buying the car, which I know sounds crazy, but I'm just like, without going into the depth of the story, I'm just showing you how dramatic miscommunication can be during this time when you actually process and understand it. That being said, I then had to call up the dealership once we'd got home and really thought about everything, and tell them that we weren't going to buy this car anymore and that we'd changed our minds, because we did have a 24-hour cooling off period where we could get out of this process. So what we did is we called the people. They said, okay, well, you've got 24 hours where you can come in and cancel it, so come back tomorrow anytime and we'll refund you the deposit you put down. So then the next day we got up first thing in the morning, went down to the dealership as soon as it opened, and when we got there they were actually like, you know what, you can't do this right now because our manager's not free, so the managers won't be free for another hour and a half. Me and my partner both had to go to work, so we were like, this isn't going to work. There's no way that we can come back later today, and we can't do this in an hour and a half. We need to do it now. So they had told us to come back, and then we'd come back, and then it didn't work out, basically. Which to me was just another example of the retrograde and how, you know, things just seem to misalign a little bit during this time. In a little bit of frustration, we decided to go back to the dealership and we said, hey, we're back. We want to get out of this. We ended up waiting around, and then we spoke to someone who could cancel it for us. This person cancelled our contract, but then they came back and they were like, oh, you're not going to get your deposit back, but you can put this towards another car in the future if you want to. All along, we had actually been promised that we would be getting this deposit back, and that the deposit was something that could easily be refunded straight away. So we did have to go a bit back and forth and discuss this, and then eventually they came back and said, okay, like, you've been told that your deposit will be refunded, so we're going to give it back to you. But miscommunication had gone on with them, their employee, and us, and they said that that's not normally something they would do. So that's a quick short story for you, but in that situation there was just a whole heap of miscommunication going on, and it also really emphasized to me something that I have seen many a times people say about what you should do during a retrograde, which I never really paid attention to, and I didn't realize it would have an effect on me like this. And that is that you shouldn't sign contracts or make big commitments during this time. Now, I personally can't say why people say that you shouldn't do that. I'm sure there's someone out there who knows even more about astrology and can tell you that. But for me, I can definitely vouch for the fact now that this is 100% true, and I'm definitely extremely wary now of signing into any kind of commitment or contract or anything during this time, because I think the miscommunication just played such a huge factor in that whole agreement that we made, that how could we have all been completely satisfied and on the same page? Like, it's an agreement, we all agree to something and sign our names on it. And in that time, there was just so much miscommunication going on. And I think we left feeling very confused. When we called them back to tell them we didn't want to be in it anymore, they were extremely confused, and it was just a mess. But the biggest thing that I have been learning so far during this time is honestly the mantra, it is what it is, and what will be, is really, really, really helping me. I actually did a card reading the other day for my partner, and we drew a card and it said, what will be, will be. And even though this card was for him, since seeing it, it has had such an impact on me and my daily life. Whenever something arises out of frustration, or something isn't going the way that I'm intending it to go, or it's not following the vision that I initially had for it, I just take a breath and I'm like, it is what it is. It is what it is. That situation cannot be changed. I have tried everything in my power to make that situation go the way I wanted it to go. But at the end of the day, everything that happens in the universe is out of my control. I can align things to be in a place that I want them to be. I can go to the car dealership, I can look for the car, I can say, hey, this is the car that I want. But at the end of the day, like, I cannot change small things from happening throughout my day. Like, if I'm driving to work and there's a driver in front of me who's slow, I cannot change that. So in that moment, I can either sit there and be incredibly frustrated and start getting angry and bringing up all these emotions within myself. My phone just stopped the recording. Another example of Mercury retrograde. So I'm just being super transparent here. If the video looks like it's a bit different right now, it is. So yeah, like, you can bring up all those emotions within yourself that in that moment just genuinely aren't serving you and aren't benefiting you in any way or helping you in any way. It really is important to just sit back and say, you know what, this moment is what it is. I cannot change it. Let go of trying to control things that you can't control. I'm definitely someone who, I've lived a lot of my life having expectations or ideas about how I want a situation to go. And realistically, when you're holding on to expectations, you're very easily let down, because life is not something that can be planned down to a T. Life is not something that we can control, and it's not something that we get to have a say in all the time. I can book something, I can hope for something, I can dream of something, but the universe always has its own plan, and there's always a reason for everything happening. And the sooner you realize that and let go of trying to control, the more at peace you will honestly be. Because if you truly, truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and that everything in the universe is unfolding for a greater good, a greater purpose, and the universe has a divine plan for you, and a plan bigger than you can even dream of, if you really surrender to that and say, hey, you know what? Like, I trust in the universe and the power of the universe, and amazing things are coming to me. When something that you want or something that you're hoping for, or a situation that you are involved in is not necessarily working out the way that you've planned it to, sitting back and surrendering and just allowing it to be as it is and be what it will be will really help that thing unfold in the way that it's supposed to, if you're putting up resistance constantly to the present moment and what it actually is. How's it supposed to unfold even more? It's like a flower unfolding. It's like, hey, you wanted this, maybe like I'm thinking of a situation like a birthday, because like a birthday is something that we can spend a lot of time planning. Maybe like if that situation doesn't unfold the way you want it to, maybe there's a bigger reason for it. Maybe you've got to learn something else. See, like, I know this is going off on a bit of a tangent, but like, I'm one of those people where if I had planned an outdoor party and then it rained and then we had to go inside, I literally in the past wouldn't be able to enjoy myself because I'm so frustrated and annoyed that this party hasn't gone the way I wanted it to, that then it's ruined. But the reality is, what if you had a way better time inside? You actually ended up having the best time in that environment instead, and it unfolded in a way that you couldn't have even imagined. What if the flower blossoms to a level of beauty that you cannot even imagine and that you can't even think of? The universe has a divine plan and it is greater than you can even conceive in your mind. Another example for me is that I run a business, and during Mercury retrograde, the weather has not been the best, and it is very weather dependent because that is an outdoor environment in which I work in selling food, and the food I sell is really good when it's hot. So for me, during Mercury retrograde, every weekend pretty much the weather has been not the best. We have faced cyclones. Yesterday we faced ongoing rain. It was completely quiet, completely dead. But you know what? I got to sit there that day with my partner. He was there with me all day. And we just got to connect for hours and have chats and work together and be there with each other. And I actually had a genuinely really good time because I just accepted it for what it was. It is what it is. It's raining today. I can't control that. If anything, when it's quiet, it teaches me what business is like during times when it's quiet, because you're not always going to be busy when you're out there selling your own products, and you're not always going to have perfect weather, and it just teaches you the nature of life. Sometimes it's flourishing, sometimes it's not. If I had been really angry and mad about the fact that it was quiet and that maybe we weren't making enough money and that it was raining and that we'd gone there and wasted our time, you can see how easily you could get caught up in the frustrations and upsets around that situation. But the fact that we both just stepped back and let it be what it was supposed to be in that moment allowed us to just enjoy ourselves and have a good time regardless. Those are like the two major things that I can talk about for this retrograde period. Embracing the current moment as it is and just relinquishing control has honestly just started to change my life, because it's not something that I have ever really done before. I am someone who has always put expectations on everything, and when situations don't go how I want them to go, I've always found it very, very challenging. But there have been so many small frustrations arising during this time, and I have honestly just learnt to laugh. I've been making food, I drop my food on the floor, I spill things everywhere, things fall over, things break, things don't go the way I want them to go, and you know what? I just smile. I've just started smiling. Like I drop my food on the floor, I start laughing. I'm like I drop my food on the floor. Like, what can I do? What can I do in that moment? The only thing I can do is clean it up. And I can either clean that up in complete frustration, be extremely angry and I'm mad that happened, or I can just get on with it. I can just clean it up. I can just take a deep breath and accept it for what it is. So I'm going to end the video really quickly right there, just because my camera has shut down 4 times now, thanks Mercury retrograde for just generally being really shit with the technology. Everything seems to break during this time. If you haven't noticed already, I have experienced a car breaking, a remote controller's breaking, my phone is stuffing up heaps. So yeah, it is what it is, and the sooner that we can realize that and appreciate that, the sooner that we can just honestly be happy and accept the present moment for what it is and the greater purpose which lies ahead of us. So thank you so much for watching. Please share your stories down below of how you're going this Mercury retrograde and have a chat to me. I would really love that. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video.